On December 26, 1900, the relief ship Hesperus arrived off the coast of a jagged, desolate rock in the Scottish Hebrides. They had come to relieve the crew of the Island Moor Lighthouse, but as the ship anchored in the turbulent water, something was terribly wrong. There was no flag flying on the staff. There were no empty provision boxes left on the landing. And most concerning of all, the massive light at the top of the tower, which was supposed to guide ships through the deadly winter night, was completely dead. Relief keeper Joseph Moore rowed ashore and climbed the steep, winding stairs to the compound. He called out for his colleagues. Only the echo of his own voice answered. He found the entrance gate closed, the main door shut tight. But when he stepped inside the living quarters, he realized this was not an evacuation. The fire had been dead for days. An overturned chair lay on the floor, suggesting someone had stood up in a violent hurry. The clocks had stopped, and 3 veteran lighthouse keepers had vanished entirely from the face of the earth. To understand the impossibility of this scene, you have to understand where we are. The Flannan Isles, known to sailors as the Seven Hunters, are merciless. They sit directly in the path of brutal Atlantic storms. Building a lighthouse here was a monumental feat of engineering. Because of the danger, the Northern Lighthouse Board only stationed their best men on Island Moor. James Ducat was the principal keeper, a seasoned professional and a dedicated family man. Thomas Marshall was his second in command, a man who had spent his life navigating treacherous waters. And Donald MacArthur, the occasional keeper, was a hardened Scottish sailor, known for his physical toughness. These were not amateurs. These were not men prone to panic. They were governed by strict, unbreakable maritime rules. The golden rule of the lighthouse was simple. Under no circumstances is the station ever to be abandoned. One man must remain inside at all times. But on the week of December 15th, that rule was broken. When investigators searched the station, the physical evidence only deepened the mystery. By the door, they found the keeper's heavy, waterproof oilskin coats. 2 sets were missing, but 1 set remained hanging on its peg. This detail is chilling. In the freezing, violent winter of the North Atlantic, a man does not go outside in his shirt sleeves. Whatever compelled that 3rd man to leave the safety of the stone tower, leaving his vital weather gear behind, happened in a matter of seconds. The search party scoured the island. They checked the cliffs, the landing docks, and the deep crevices of the rock. They found ropes violently torn from their iron moorings, and metal cranes twisted by unimaginable force. But of Ducat, Marshall, and MacArthur, there was no trace, no bodies, no blood, nothing, until they opened the logbook. It was Thomas Marshall's duty to keep the daily logs. What investigators read on those pages shifted this from a tragic maritime accident into something far darker. December 12th. Marshall writes of severe winds, the likes of which he had never seen in 20 years at sea. He notes that James Ducat is remarkably quiet, and that Donald MacArthur, the hardened, tough-as-nails sailor, has been crying. December 13th. The storm continues. Marshall writes that the 3 of them have been praying. 3 veteran sailors, locked inside a reinforced stone tower, 150 feet above the sea, were terrified for their lives. December 15th, the final entry. Storm ended, sea calm, God is over all. The entries paint a picture of men driven to the edge of sanity by nature. But there is one devastating problem with Thomas Marshall's logbook. When investigators cross-referenced the dates, they found that the weather stations on the nearby mainland recorded something impossible. On December 12th, 13th, and 14th, there were no storms in the area. The skies were clear. The sea was entirely calm. The violent, terrifying hurricane that drove MacArthur to tears and the men to their knees seemed to exist only on that island. For over a century, investigators and historians have tried to solve the puzzle of the Flannan Isles. The official investigation, led by Superintendent Robert Moorhead, concluded that the tragedy was a freak accident. He theorized that two men were down at the landing dock, securing gear during an unexpected swell. When a massive rogue wave approached, the third man in the lighthouse saw the danger, sprinted out without his coat to warn them, and all three were swept away into the black water. But many sailors reject this. It requires 3 experienced men to simultaneously break protocol and abandon the tower. This led to darker theories. Did the isolation break them? Did a fight break out over rations or duties? Some suspect MacArthur, known for a volatile temper, snapped in the claustrophobic stone walls, murdered his colleagues, threw them into the sea, and then followed them into the deep. Others looked at the bizarre, localized storm in the logbook. The locals of the Hebrides have always whispered that the 7 hunters were cursed, a place not meant for human habitation. We will never know the truth of what happened in those final, frantic moments. The overturned chair, the abandoned coat, the prayers to a silent sky, the bodies of James Duckett, Thomas Marshall, and Donald MacArthur were never recovered. The sea swallowed them whole, and the Island Moor Lighthouse still stands today, guarding a secret it will never yield.